Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this not regularly scheduled because it's a Wednesday, special meeting to order. Again, as a reminder, we are having our budget hearing and commission meeting tonight in lieu of having the budget meeting on a regular next Monday night. I can't quite remember the reason right now, but it's something about different governing boards having budget meetings on the same night. We won't even mention them. We just won't even mention them. All I know is I don't have air conditioning, so we're not going to go there, right? I do have one change to the agenda. We're going to move item 2 off of the consent agenda, the amending the city schedule of fees and charges. That's going to go to a new date. 1 and? Just number 2, because I have 1 approved consent agenda, then I have 2 and 3. It's a little odd. We're pulling, amending the city schedule fees. Does Commission, do you want to do the compensation program? That's not the compensation program that was just presented. That's our normal compensation program. Do we want to leave that on the consent agenda, or does anybody have any questions about it before we? On the consent agenda. So it's on the consent agenda. We won't talk about it. We won't have a presentation. We'll just. Okay, so we'll pull that off and make that item 3 under public hearing as ordinance. Okay, so with those changes, right. That's what mine is weird. I have 1 ag tech park, and then I have 1 under consent agenda, and then item 2 and 3, and that's confusing me. Last item on the agenda. Okay, so
the consent agenda, what all is under that?
well, there were 2 items. There was amending the city schedule of fees and charges, Resolution 2023, and the compensation program salary schedule, Resolution 2023-09. We're taking, staff is asking to move the first resolution to a different night. The question was, so now there won't be a consent agenda, right? And again, this salary schedule is not the one that was just presented. This is our normal one, but I always think for the budget it's good just to review it, ask any questions. So we'll put that last agenda with those changes. I have a motion to approve the agenda from Commissioner Bezon, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? I know that was a bit confusing, but we got it figured out in the end. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I do want to mention Commissioner Clark is absent tonight. We wish him safe travels. I'm going to ask everybody to rise for the invocation from Reverend Joy Glanzer, and then if you would, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow right after.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pray with me. Gracious Lord, we're grateful this evening as we come together once again to work diligently at making our community one based on unity, cooperation, and compassion for each other. As the least of us is raised up, so all of us will be raised up. We face many challenges, Lord, and we ask you to lay your hands on the shoulders of our elected officials tonight, that they may be inspired to heed the highest calling, serving your people. May they have the integrity in their judgment, and may they be selfless in their decisions. It's not an easy job with which they have been tasked. Give them the wisdom to do a job that will honor our citizens and our families who call Newberry home. Thank you for seeing us through the storm last week, and we're thankful we were spared the worst. But be with those communities who were not as fortunate and give them the strength to rebuild. God bless Newberry, and it's in thy precious name we pray. Amen. Amen.
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, Reverend Joy. Go Gators. Okay, that's going to take us to presentations. We're going to hear about our Ag Tech Park presentation. Are you going to introduce
Yes.
Please, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, just I think the commission is all familiar with Kamal Latham, who works with us in a consulting capacity. He has been spearheading our initiative to develop the Newberry Agri-Food Tech Park, and we've had him on board helping us in that capacity for probably a little bit less than a year now. He probably started helping us out in November, and we thought it would be a great opportunity to share with the commission our progress through his first year of work. And so Kamal's going to come up to the podium and give you a brief presentation on the efforts that we've made with Newberry's Agritech Food Park. His wife, who is a partner in his firm, is also with him tonight.
Smart man. That's right. Come on down, sir. Come on down and tell us all about the momentum that we've been building here, because it is palpable.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Clerk, Mr. Attorney, Mr. City Manager, Assistant City Manager, distinguished guests. I'm Kamal Latham, and it is an honor and privilege to be here before all of you to give an update and a progress report on the Agriculture, Food, Technology, Research, and Innovation Park that the City Commission has identified as a priority item for the city. It was, Janine is excellent. She's bailed me out a couple of times on things in the past year. Okay. Please feel free to stop if there's any questions along the way. What is the project name and purpose? The name of this is the F300 Agri-Food Tech Research and Innovation Park. F300, no, it's not a new name of a Ford. This F300 is F for Florida and 300 representing the number of crops, specialty crops that are grown here in Florida. Because the intention of this is that this is a Florida asset that will be based in Newberry that will benefit the citizens of Newberry and the region, the state, and beyond. The purpose of this is simply job creation. Job creation helps to create that economic churn, creates that economic activity, and then you have more tax revenue because you have more jobs and you have more economic activity. So that's the objective with this initiative. What is agri-food tech? You have upstream and downstream. Upstream is closer to the farmer, downstream closer to the consumer. And so for upstream, you have a number of different categories: farm robotics and equipment, bioenergy and biomaterials, innovative farming and food, agriculture biotechnology, farm management software, agribusiness marketplaces, and on the downstream, closer to the consumer, e-grocery, in-store restaurant and retail, online restaurants, online meal kits, restaurant marketplaces, home and cooking. It will likely be that the type of companies that would be attracted to this research and innovation park would be on the upstream side of the category, because a lot of this is on the downstream. They are internet-based, e-commerce, and sometimes they may not need brick and mortar. So when we're talking about the agri-food tech park and the types of companies and types of jobs, it would most likely be along those companies and those industries that are on the upstream side of the equation. What is Newberry's competitive edge? Newberry's region has the research capacity to be a competitive agri-food tech hub. UF-IFAS has spent $278 million on research, and overall, the University of Florida has spent $1 billion from 2021 to 2022. UF has one of the fastest supercomputers in the world and is the AI land-grant university. That's one of the big competitive, unique selling points for Newberry and the Newberry region. Having the IFAS Extension Office was a big deal, having that to move out here. And with the leadership that we have at IFAS and the research capacity at UF, particularly with that supercomputer, it's literally one of the fastest supercomputers on the face of the planet Earth. Some calculations that typically would take 6 and 9 months, they can happen within minutes. And UF-IFAS has hired faculty specifically to research AI applications in agriculture. And so this is something that is an opportunity that this region can capture for high technology and high wage jobs. F300 will facilitate job creation by being a hub of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, advanced energy, and industrial efficiency tech applications in the agri-food tech sector. Now, although we're talking about a lot of high-tech jobs, you have jobs that will be across the spectrum, for different levels. And so what this will be is the driver, and as the driver, this will help to lead the economic growth, and then there'll be a lot of different types of jobs at different skill sets and different levels that would come along with it. What key steps are involved? Step one, to secure stakeholder interest. That was from 2022 to present, over the past year. To date, we have secured 45 plus stakeholders that are interested in this project. Step two was to secure planning grants. And over the past year, our firm, GBM Global Solutions, has written and helped to secure $75,000 in planning grants for the city of Newberry. Some of you were at the meeting last November when Duke Energy had the $20,000 grant. We wrote the grant for that, and that was for the city to help advance the project. And then earlier this year, we wrote a grant to the USDA for the Rural Business Development Grant, the RBDG, for $55,000, and we're able to secure that. And so between those two grants, public sector, private sector, $75,000 coming into the city of Newberry. Thank you, sir. And those grants are to fund hiring a consultant that can do the business incubator feasibility study and business plan. That's one of the key features of this agriculture research technology park, is to have a business incubator similar to what we've seen in the neighboring city of Alachua. We have the Sid Martin Biotech Incubator, and you have all those biotech companies that have come out of it. Similar type of model. You have an incubator, and that helps to, that's the beginning to help spawn a lot of growth. Step three is to complete this incubator feasibility study. That will be in 2024. And step four would be to complete the business incubator business plan. We worked with the finance team headed by Dallas to shape the RFP solicitation, and that went out in August, and the bids will be due later this month, and it will be a competitive bidding process that your finance team will be overseeing, so that a good consultant will be selected to be able to do those projects. And then the remaining part of the grant funding was to fund GBM Global Solutions to do the stakeholder development, because that's a process to work with people, identify people, because you have to have a good group of stakeholders to help capture the energy, maintain the momentum, and help to shape the project so that you have a vision that will be compelling and realistic but robust.
Farnsworth?
Regarding, explain to me the definition of a stakeholder.
Yes, sir. A stakeholder would be someone, public sector, private sector, nonprofit sector, that is interested in the project and would like to support the project. For example, last November, we had a large stakeholder meeting, and in that stakeholder meeting, we had people from UF-IFAS, their senior vice president and their deans and assistant deans. We also had some of the researchers that were there. We also had people who were business owners that had businesses that were in the agriculture, food, technology arena. We had a representative from Florida Farm Bureau that was there. There were some members of the county commission that was there. Duke Energy had representatives that were there. USDA? Yes, and USDA, the director for Florida and the U.S. Virgin Islands for USDA was there. And we also had some people from the venture capital arena. That was one of the most exciting parts of it. We had venture capitalists that specifically invest in the agriculture, food, technology companies. They participated, and they jointly managed over $600 million. And so stakeholders are people who were interested in the project, and out of all of the discussions that we have had, we have identified 45 stakeholders, and some institutions have multiple stakeholders.
Okay, so now are these people actually committed to doing something? Or are they just looking at the project, or do you have any companies that say, yeah, we're ready to get involved?
Take a crack at that. Because one of the things that has been educational for me in this process, and I'm blanking on Dr. Lang, right? Dr. Lang is the vice president he's over IFAS, is that professors don't have any entrepreneurial background. So there's the one example, Gatorade, right? Professor invents Gatorade, and is able to take that invention then to the market, make hundreds of millions of dollars. So when to answer the question, do we have these people who are committed? I think that the project holistically is, especially at that meeting, we were able to identify these professors that have these ideas, right? And they can fix this and they can fix that, but they have no idea how to take that idea out of a classroom and out of a lab and market it, brand it, run a business. And so when I hear the word committed, I mean, I was there, I was talking to these people, and they said, I want to do this, I just don't know how to do it. So the incubator feasibility study, kind of, they all go hand in hand. They need a place, they need infrastructure, but they also need that venture capitalist that says, okay, here's your idea, this is great, this is how you turn and market it now. So the venture capitalist, I mean, I think what you're getting at is, has anybody put money on the table? Nobody's put money on the table yet, but everybody recognizes the venture capitalists need the professors to have the ideas. The professors who have the ideas need the venture capitalists to figure out how to get it out of the classroom. We want to create the campus where they can meet and talk and figure out how to do that. So that's what I think of when I hear stakeholder. We don't have anybody, and actually he may have an update on this, so I don't want to say we don't have anybody, because we do have a few people who do want to invest in it, right? But I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but that's what I
No,
hear,
I mean,
the stakeholder.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure whether a stakeholder was somebody that's actually put money into
Right.
the project, or they're just somebody that are listening to ideas and said, hey, yeah, we might be interested.
Yeah,
I take a stake in something that I usually consider that to me being
you financially
a
invested.
financial
Yeah,
involvement, so I just want to clarify
I think
that.
these are people who have said, if we can figure out how to create this campus, I want a spot on the campus. Commissioner Coleman?
And one person I was talking to there at Auburn University, because they're big ag too, and they, through the same way this is going on, is they had they actually could spray the fields. Drones. These big old drones and stuff, but he couldn't ever get it to work right. But it ended up being Starlink that they used. It just grew from this guy's idea, actually the professor's idea, to boom, to boom, to boom. And it's amazing. And now I see it all the time on that Ag TV thing all the time.
And one of the core, we're breaking into your time, I apologize, but one of the core issues here is, you know, you're a land grant university, so anything you create, UF owns. And so that when everybody owns it, nobody owns it, right? So why would I invest the time to take it to the market if UF is going to take all the money? So trying to figure out how to navigate that, and worked out, I remember a few years ago, it was a big deal. Somebody had bought Gatorade from UF, and UF wasn't going to be able to sell Gatorade on UF campus. It was going to be whoever the competitor is, right? And so having somebody that can help these farmers, scientists, researchers navigate all those and turn these ideas into marketable solutions that can actually start addressing the fact that the world runs out of the ability to feed itself by 2050, right? 9 billion, that's how many people we can feed. It's right there in front of us, and unless we do something like this to answer that question, that's when we start having some issues. And let's get back on tax. I don't want to get too far. I get excited about this.
That's quite all right, sir. Commissioner, given the traditional definition that you're looking at for a stakeholder, we would count Duke Energy as one of the stakeholders. They wrote a check to the city for $20,000, and that's a good start. And two companies that were at that meeting last year, they have signed letters of commitment saying that they are interested in this location, and if this location was up and running, they would be very interested in opening up an office. And so that's the momentum. Someone wrote a check, and other companies are saying, hey, if you had it up and going, we would be very seriously interested in setting up an office. So what happened over the past year? This is just a chronological overview. August of last year, we had a strategy session with IFAS SVP, Senior Vice President Dr. Scott Engel, who is the head of IFAS. The mayor hosted that strategy session, and that kicked off a lot of the discussions and the plannings, which led to the event that we had later on in the year. In October, we arranged a meeting with the city manager and Mr. Thomas to meet with the CEO of Ag Intel Inc. That is an agriculture robotics company that is right now based in Innovation Hub, and they are very interested in Newberry. And so we had a meeting with them because they are interested in opportunities to collaborate here in the city. In October, we prepared the Duke Energy Florida grant application. In November, Duke awarded Newberry the $20,000 grant. And then in November, we recruited venture capital firms with $600 million in assets to participate in that exploratory meeting and discussion with UF-IFAS and other stakeholders. And that was in November. January of this year, we hosted a stakeholder working group meeting. So out of the 40-plus stakeholders that were at the big meeting that we had at the Extension Office last November, about a dozen of them have been concentrated into a working group so that we can have concentrated and pointed discussions about how we can move things forward. And so that working group is meeting on a regular basis, and we had that first working group meeting in January. Then in February, we prepared the USDA grant. In May, the USDA awarded Newberry the $55,000 grant. And then in May, we had a meeting with IFAS to discuss a Agriculture Food Innovation Center. It's a program that the USDA has where they help to support ag innovation centers in different parts of the US. So it was an exploratory discussion with IFAS to see if we could move forward to pursue that opportunity. In June, there was a delegation to Washington, D.C. that was headed by the mayor. And we had a delegation meeting with Dr. Engel. And then later that month, we had meetings in Washington, D.C. with members of the Congress and congressional staff. And that was an opportunity to follow up on the visit that the chairman of the House Agriculture Committee had here right across the parking lot with Congresswoman Kamek when they had the field hearing here. And so there was a great opportunity for the mayor to give the chairman of House Ag an update of here's what we're looking to do here in Newberry. We'd love to come to DC and talk to you more about that. And so he went to Washington, DC and spoke with him, spoke with his staff on the House side and on the Senate side. And then we had an idea. We said, hey, we think this agriculture food technology hub is great for the city of Newberry. It's great for rural America. It's great for a local city. We know it's good for Florida as well. It's probably going to be good for the nation, this type of a model. So we knew that the Farm Bill is being renegotiated because every 5 years. And so we had an idea and we had floated it with some of the congressional offices that why don't you consider in the Farm Bill putting in a provision in the Farm Bill to support agriculture, food, regional technology hubs in America. So that was part of the rationale of going down to Washington, D.C., because if you can plant a seed, pun intended, if you could plant a seed about a program and an idea that either this go-around or maybe at a future go-around, perhaps it can take root and there could be some funding so that it creates potentially other opportunities in the future to be able for the city to compete for.
And the only thing that I would correct there is when Commissioner Martin and I was talking to the congressman over here at the municipal building about this project, he invited us to come to DC. He said, this sounds really exciting. Can you guys come up and talk to us more about it? Everything else, Kamal nailed perfectly. But I think that when you talk about momentum, when the chair of the Ag Committee says, hey, can you come to DC and tell me more about this? So we said, yeah, absolutely. we'll meet you up there. So.
Yes, indeed. Madam Clerk, please let the record reflect that correction. That's very important. The chairman of House Ag, he initiated the invitation, and we just responded. What else happened over the past year? In July, we had a follow-up meeting with U.S. Senator Braun's staff and Purdue University. U.S. Senator Braun, Indiana, Purdue University. We met with one of his staff people to talk about what we were doing here in Newberry and the idea to have something in the Farm Bill. And so we had a follow-up meeting with them to further discuss via Zoom. We didn't travel to Washington for that. Then in July, the city met with the Florida Business Incubation Association, FBIA, and the city joined the FBIA. That is the statewide association that helps to support the development of incubators. And so now they have formally come on as a stakeholder for this project. They would love to see this project move forward. July, we shaped the RFP for the business incubator study and plan. And also in July, one of the companies that's interested in this project, Micro Nanotechnologies, they met with Newberry farmers. They are a company that is in Innovation Hub, and it's a professor at UF, and they have this new technology to do drying for seeds and other type of agricultural products, and they're looking for farms in Newberry that they could test out that product. And so we worked with the economic development staff and with the UF IFAS staff and met with Mr. Hodge and Mr. Bass with their operation. And there's some potential of collaboration. So that's part of what this is about. Newberry has a great opportunity with the land that you have and the connectivity to be able to be that bridge with companies that have this technology, and they want to be able to connect with farmers. They want to be able to connect with the community where they could test run some of their ideas, and if the ideas work, then they can move forward. This is one of the companies that said, if you have an incubator here, we'd be very interested in opening up an office. Then there was a stakeholder working group meeting, and then in August, we forged a consortium with 13 organizations. We put together a group of different entities, and we have a support letter from all of those entities, and we're going to highlight some of the support later in this presentation for a designation that we applied for the U.S. Economic Development Administration's grant program for regional tech hubs. Federal programs are very competitive. They often have hundreds or thousands of entities that can apply. Sometimes you have to apply multiple times. But it's good to be in the game, and we've got 13 entities that said, we support Newberry. There's a photo. Some of you are in this photo.
Oh, look at that ugly mug.
Duke awarding the $20,000 grant to Newberry, which was announced at the meeting last year. And there's some photos from the Washington, D.C. delegation, the talks that we had.
I carried that watermelon. I just want y'all to know.
Yes.
All the way up the hill, all the way, I carried it all over the state.
I would draw your attention particularly to the photo on the right-hand side. You have your city manager, and then you have Dr. Engel from IFAS, and then the gentleman sitting right past Dr. Engel is a representative from Commissioner Wilton Simpson's office, the Agriculture Commissioner for the state of Florida. One of the members representing his office was there at that meeting participating. So it was good that we were able to have Commissioner Simpson's office participating, so they're able to hear what Newberry is doing. These are photos from Micro Nanotechnologies meeting with Newberry farmers. That's Dr. Saeed and with Dr. Sanchez from UF IFAS meeting with the farmers there, the Newberry farmers, because they have their equipment, and those are seed drying bins that are there at that farm. And so they have a technology that could be able to reduce the amount of moisture, reduce the amount of energy, so that you can be able to get a better dried seed. So this is exactly what Newberry can help play that role. A company that has a technology, they want to develop it, they could test drive it here, and then create jobs. What's next? 2023, we're going to have another F300 stakeholder working group meeting. And then in 2024, we're going to have additional meetings. We're just keeping up the momentum because it's very important just to keep people abreast and engaged. And also they help provide guidance and ideas of how to move it forward. The business incubator feasibility study will be complete in 2024, along with the incubator business plan. On an ongoing basis, we continue to develop stakeholders and pursue grants. We want to leverage what we can to bring in outside dollars into the city. This is the list of the F300 consortium members. On the public and private side, it's the University of Florida, Santa Fe College, Duke Energy Florida, Micro Nanotechnologies, Agriculture Intelligence, Inc., and our firm, GBM Global Solutions. On the nonprofit side, the Newberry Area Chamber of Commerce, the Florida Business Incubation Association, the Greater Gainesville Chamber, the International Fresh Produce Association. Just want to hit a pause button there. This is a big deal, is a big entity. This is the International Association for Fresh Produce. And so about 90 to 95% of all the fresh produce in America, produce and flowers, is touched by at least 2 of their members. And so this is a big entity, and they've signed a letter of support that they support the city of Newberry with this F300 project.
That's cool.
Also, Gainesville Black Professionals, Mirror Image Leadership Academy, and START GNV. And so we put this consortium together, and we have signed letters from all of them. We've made them available to the city manager's office, and so we have them to be made available to all the commissioners. That you can see the signed letters of support, and some of them have made commitments that we'll help to provide some workforce training. We'll help to get the word out of Newberry into diverse communities. We'll help get the word out to the startup ecosystem that is in the region. We could use what Newberry is doing to help train youth and help inspire youth to be able to encourage them to get involved in a career in agriculture, food, technology, and et cetera, and so forth. So it's very exciting because when you have a group of people who are going to be in support of you, it just opens up opportunities to move things forward. Just want to give excerpts from these letters of support. This is from the UF Senior Vice President and now Interim Provost, Dr. Scott Engel. Quote, Newberry is an excellent location for EDA, that's Economic Development Administration, that's out of the U.S. Department of Commerce. It's an excellent location for an EDA tech hub to strengthen our region's capacity for economic development, catalyze ag tech business development, and pull together numerous local assets and develop new technologies that can drive economic growth. That's from Dr. Engel. Support from the president of Santa Fe College, Dr. Paul Brody. Quote, we support the Ag Tech Consortium and look forward to providing information to our graduates about opportunities as they enter the workforce. And this is a quote from the IFPA, International Fresh Produce Association, their chief science officer. Quote, we anticipate that the Agri-Food Tech project in Newberry, Florida will serve as a potential feeder to our accelerator program. Considering the innovative companies within this tech hub as potential future participants in the Fresh Field Catalyst program will give them the opportunity for ongoing support and acceleration. Just as a highlight, they launched an accelerator program last year. Every year, they have about half a dozen to a dozen companies from all around the world come to the U.S. for about 2 months, and they connect them with Driscoll's, they connect them with major food producers in order to take this new technology anywhere in the world that's being commercialized and to see how it can be applied to fresh produce and flora. And so they have this accelerator program, and what they got excited about is, hey, if Newberry does an incubator where you're incubating these companies for a year or 2, then as they come out of the incubator, then they could be companies that can come into our accelerator so we can help accelerate their growth and help scale their business. That is the type of partnership. Kind of similar to, like in the city of Alatra, you have the biotech program at the high school, and then you've got the Perry Center biotechnology, so that you've got one entity that's helping to train young people in an area, then they can graduate and go to the next level. Similar type of thing, and this is very exciting. Support from Duke Energy Florida. This is from Stacy Bertrand, the Government Community Relations Manager. A lot of you know Ms. Bertrand. Quote, Duke Energy Florida is pleased to have the opportunity to support the city of Newberry and its technology-led economic development strategy. Our company continues to be engaged in the success of this project, including participating in stakeholder meetings and providing economic development expertise. And then support from Micro Nanotechnologies. Quote, M&T is actively seeking a location to establish its advanced manufacturing and design center and hire staff. The envisioned F300 Tech Hub will be an attractive site, enabling us to draw upon the talented workforce in the region. That's Mike Schmidt, the president. That's what you would want, advanced manufacturing and design. And then finally, support from Agriculture Intelligence, Inc. Quote, we will advise the consortium on services to offer at a business incubator to help tenants bring products and services to market faster. F300 would be an attractive location for us to open an office and hire team members. This is a potential future employer for the city of Newberry. And just about GBM, we are your economic development advisors. My background, I facilitate over $7 billion in business and economic growth over my career as a U.S. diplomat and doing economic development in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I was assistant city manager for the city of Alachua and helped to shape their economic development plan. And that's my contact information. Thank you all very much for your time.
Well, we appreciate it. I can't tell you how much I love hearing the city of Newberry on everyone's lips, you know, from all over the region, all over the country. That's what we've asked for. This project, I think, is probably nearest and dearest to most of our hearts. We're trying to hold on to our agricultural heritage. We're trying to hold on to some of our ag land. You know, we're trying to keep a foot in that. We all think this is our best bet if we can pull this off, and it is a monumental task. And it kind of languished because this has been an idea for a while, and this is the first time that we really feel like we've got some folks paying attention. We've got some stakeholders. We've got some commitment. So, great job. You know, keep it up, Commissioner Coleman.
Come on. Hey, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Florida Farm Bureau, where are they at in this? We need to get.
Yes, well, we had a representative from Florida Farm Bureau that was at the meeting last year.
Right.
And so as this project moves on, we anticipate looking to fold them in. And there are other statewide entities that are out there, Growers Association and different commodity entities that we'd like to fold into this process. This is a multi-year effort.
Well, you'd think with them being actually housed in Alachua County, as big as they are, You go
Yes.
see them or I will.
So we're glad they showed up in person.
Good.
And so that's part of the whole intention with the stakeholder is just to keep up the momentum. We're going to have another large stakeholder stakeholder meeting at the beginning of next year. We're going to coordinate that with the city manager and the city staff so that we can bring that large group back together to say, here's what we've done over the past year and here's what we're looking to do over this next year.
Exciting, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Just a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. First of all, that watermelon that you presented was kind of small. Hopefully,
Well, look how little he is. He has to walk it all the way up them steps, man.
hopefully you told him that it was grown in Mayo or someplace like that. not
Maybe
in
something like
Newberry.
that.
And what has become of the $20,000 we got from Duke?
The grant we got from Duke, that was for, what was that for? That was for the incubator specifically? That
That's
was a
for-
study.
That's for
Feasibility
the
study.
incubator feasibility study and business plan. And so there's a RFP that is out to hire that consultant. So that $20,000 is directly going to hire and retain that consultant. And one of the great things is that we were able to leverage an opportunity. Instead of doing two separate RFPs and maybe spending more money, we combined and had one RFP because we combined, the Duke grant was paying for the feasibility study. The USDA grant was paying for the business plan. It was two separate things. So we combined both. So you just hire one consultant to do both things so that hopefully you could be able to get a lower total cost. But that's what that $20,000 specifically is going. So it's sitting in the bank, ready to be deployed when that consultant is retained.
Mr. Farnsworth. Go ahead.
Will that $20,000 cover the total cost to the consultant, or has that got to be supplemented from somewhere else?
That's one source of funding. The USDA grant is another source of funding for retaining that consultant. And so the funding is from the Duke Energy grant, the USDA grant, and as necessary, city funds to then make up any gap.
And we talked on the dais about the business part and whether or not we would have to fund it. So the USDA grant, great news, because that takes off the big chunk of it, right? So at this point, most of it is gonna be funded, but we had talked about, could we match it if we had to, if we weren't successful, and we were able to be successful, so. Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, so far it sounds like a lot of academics and tabletop exercises. What's our timeline and what's gonna take us to start turning dirt?
That's a good question. To turn dirt, that would probably be a 3 to 5 year horizon.
No. we can't wait that long. What else needs to be done between now and getting that done?
That's a budget matter. That's just a dollar amount for being able to pay for a building to be built. And so looking at this, the time frame for grants be
So
3
we
to
need a
5.
developer to do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ideally, if you have a private sector developer that would come in and be able to, do development, then that could help move the project forward.
And I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I think out of that meeting in November, we got a local private sector developer that is interested, and we may be seeing an application to fold some land into that coming sometime soon, which would vastly elevate that timeline.
Yeah, I wanna do, whatever we can to get that moving as quickly as possible, because I don't know how long you've necessarily been directly involved, but yeah, 3 to 5 years from now would put like 10 years on this whole process, and, we should be able to do it much faster. Yes.
Well, it's common. You graduated from UF in IFAS. What part, what were you in? He'd be a good guy to, yeah.
How big were the watermelons you carried?
Hey, yeah, did you carry big watermelon?
Any other questions for Kamal? Thank you, sir. Keep it up. We're gonna get with that private developer and, make it happen. Because I agree with Commissioner Martin. We want this thing to happen. We want it to happen right now and right away. But it is a budgetary, and we want to find some private sector dollars to help out. So.
Absolutely, and we are at your service to help move things along. I also wanted to highlight City Manager New has been tremendous in really helping to vision out and to move things forward and keeping everyone on task so that there is traction, so that there will be results to show for this project.
He may help carry watermelon up there too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
you.
ma'am. You had a good night. You didn't have to come up. Well done. Okay, so we don't have a consent agenda anymore. That's going to take us to public announcements. Any members of the public wishing to speak to the commission, you have 2 minutes to do so. These are the non-controversial. You got a lost dog, got a garage sale coming up. Miss Peggy, you got anything? Nothing from the Lions Club, nothing from Main Street, nothing from, how's the volleyball team doing?
Hot damn. We have beaten 3 top 10 teams, 2 of them with sweeps.
All right.
That was Stanford, Minnesota, Penn State. And if anybody's volleyball,
Penn State.
those are 3 top 10 teams.
All right.
And
Well, we
yours
appreciate that
very much
update.
smiled.
Yeah. Okay, no other public comment? That's gonna move us to, the fund script part, and I believe that the commission has some things they'd like to discuss, before we get into the script. So let's have the conversation, and then we'll know where to put them in at the appropriate point into the script, which includes like 6 or 7 resolutions and ordinances, right? So we'll figure out, as a result of the conversation, where we want to go. So the commission has shared with me some thoughts, some concerns about the wage study, the wage scale, current salaries, differences between at the top, at the bottom, those kinds of things. But I think at this point, the commission and the manager need to have those conversations kind of directly. So if the commission wants to reach for the mic and share those concerns, we can figure this out. And then again, whatever the result of those conversations, I would ask staff to help us know where to put those into the different places so that on second reading, we can have any amendments, if there are any amendments to be made. Commissioner Farnsworth, are you reaching? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Sure, why not? I got a couple of things I need some clarification on. One of them that I am wondering about is the class that certain members of the staff took regarding management, and they were apparently compensated with a increase in salary based on that, taking that class. And I'm wondering, if the class was a mandatory class?
You want to respond to, you want to list them all out and we'll respond to them, or one at a time?
Well, I was just wondering if it was mandatory.
It was not mandatory.
Was it an essential class?
Not, it was similar training to the lineman apprenticeship program that our linemen go through, or the water wastewater trainee to become a wastewater operator. It's a certification program that's offered through a state university to become a certified public manager. It is geared for public employees, state and local government, to participate in and become further certified in their craft of local government or state government, as the case may be. So it's offered by a fairly prestigious university located in Tallahassee. Florida State University offers the program. I think there are probably a few others, but we utilize the Florida State as the, what's that? Only FSU offers it in the state of Florida. It's a national program. Different states do it different ways. State of Florida does it through Florida State University.
Is it just an online program, or is it something that has to require classroom study, or?
It requires attendance by staff members. Is it every other week? I mean, every other month? 300 hours of classroom study once a quarter.
And how much was staff compensated for taking that course?
The staff members that participated in that course received a 7% increase in pay.
And what was that? How was that determined? 7% was the...
It's a program that I don't know the title to, but the city offers incentives for training. And I'd say it started with things that the commission probably, I presume, are familiar with, because we celebrate when people participate. But our line workers, they go through an apprenticeship program to become certified as line workers, and that's a 3-year program that's run through FMPA, but it's taught by ECG out of Georgia. Then once that's a formal program that gets you from trainee to line worker, but that same program offers line worker 1 to line worker 2 training that our guys participate in, and then line worker 2 to foreman or supervisor type training.
That's kind of essential for the type of work they do, right?
I mean, yes and no. It is essential for them to progress, but you know, we don't have a mandatory progression. It is possible to come to work at Newberry and be an apprentice for career. I think prior to this program being in place, that happened, and so having this program in place was a way to get their training that would help them be better linemen and better serve the residents of Newberry. And there are financial incentives that helps them move through a pay scale.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like it was someone getting a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. It was, you know, it was basically a management training course that, I don't know, the compensation of 7% would have been my choice. But, you know, on the other hand, I don't know, and how are we going to see benefits from it? I mean, it's good to look on, it's good on your resume, but how is it actually going to benefit the city of Newberry? And as far as the compensation for the other employees, my thoughts, and I've thought about this quite a bit, is just do a 5% across the board raise, no COLA, no merit, just 5%. except for the people that have gotten the 7% raise already. I think that'd be probably the fairest thing that we can do at this time. And that's my thought. I don't know what the other commissioners think or their feelings on it.
Okay. Any other commissioners? This conversation is really between you guys and the city manager at this point. So, Commissioner Martin.
Well, I talked with, emailed Mike earlier today. My sentiments were really just sort of balancing on what we could actually theoretically afford. I don't really have any heartache about the 7% with the schooling and the progress. I would, as far as trying to get everybody something, I wouldn't necessarily be supportive of adding another 6% on top of that if he had already gotten the 7. Just in the interest of, I have like heart palpitations about the economic situation that we're dealing with. I think we all need to be very grateful that we have jobs at the moment and try to keep that in the grander scheme. So I was okay with the 7% for the staff members that earned that and went through the class, but they would keep that, and for the other staff, just trying to keep them with wherever we were at the COLA and the merit increases for those people, just so we could try to get everybody a little bit of something right now to ride out the next year.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
Well, I know I keep saying, bringing up rates and stuff every time I'm up here about this, but today, prime hit 8.5. So I really think there's gonna be some major problems coming up. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's pretty tough. I think every one of our top guys deserve the 7%. That, especially going through that school. I don't think that we need to go above 7 on this, additional to the 7%. And I'm good with the 5 down the board. I know that we do these where the managers, you know, scale their people and what number are you gonna come up with? But I you know, it isn't, if we could give them 15% right now, I would do it. I think they're the best, but I am really, really worried. It's all about the numbers. I'm really worried about the way this economy's going. I mean, we got the best. They deserve the best, but we only have so much. So I'm on board with the way they are. They got the 7% and straight down the line, 5%, let them have it, 5%. I think that's where we need to be.
Do you have anything, Commissioner Maison?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
of course. I'm going to need some clarification, okay? Whose decision was it with the 7%
It's per policy.
for policy? Okay, and
it goes from 2.5 to 10%. And says if you take a class for a week and take a certification, that's not worth very much. But if you have a class that you have to take for a couple months and you get a certification, requires ongoing education, that's worth X. If your class takes several years, and so we have a grid that kind of shows us where to put people when they earn those certifications.
so here's where I'm at. Okay, so 9 years ago, where was the city financially?
Much time you got?
Oh, okay, no, okay, reserves. Where were we in reserves? We were bad 9 years ago.
Finance director, we had $64 in reserves.
Where are we at right now?
We have $3.8 million in reserves as of this morning
Job
in the general
staff.
fund.
Good job, staff. Does the commission, this is me getting clarification because I'm still trying to learn this. Does the commission make salary ranges or for Mike New to make when he's hired on? Okay,
Contractual between us.
city manager. So as far as,
Hang on one second, because you're asking if the city manager has a range,
no, then does the commission
set a range.
set a range for Mike New for his employees?
I think we advertise, no, wait, is that two questions? Are you asking about, does the commission set a range for the manager, or does the commission set a range for the manager
Mayor, I
to
I think
appoint
he's
to?
referring to the pay grid that the commission considers every year in the budget process,
that what
the
you're
one
talking
that we
Yes.
just
So
pulled
the
off
pay-
of the budget.
Are you asking if that
Pull
pay
off the
grid
agenda.
applies to the manager?
Does
to
this
the
apply
team.
to salaries? Yes. I don't.
I think the commission advertises, when we hired Mike, we advertised a range. And then we have a contract with him, and then he's eligible for whatever raises there. But we've never set a cap. We have never said the city manager in Newberry makes from this, and then if he gets to here, he's capped off. Is that what you're asking? I'm trying to make sure I understand the question.
No, it sounds to me like you're asking if we tell him what ranges to
Range,
set
yes.
for the staff.
Yes.
And we do in the sense that we are approving classifications for job titles and different things like that. So yes, we do.
Correct.
Question?
Every job title's got a
Well, for
different
our
range.
heads, what was the range?
There.
That data is forthcoming. I've asked for it. It's coming.
It's in the backup.
Right.
It's on
it's gonna
the
be on this
agenda for
agenda.
consideration tonight.
So then I guess my statement would be that if the range we have, if he's within that range, then why are we questioning that? And we're at 2 million. 9 years ago, we're at $16, 60,000, 6,000? It seems like our staff's done a phenomenal job. Why are we questioning what is this making sense, or am I?
That's for sure.
I mean, I would agree with Commissioner Coleman. We all think they've done a fantastic job.
Right. So then why are
The
we
question,
questioning
I mean,
that?
the topic of the conversation right now, what I've heard from 3 commissioners, and what we do need to hear from, is we've got some employees that have a 7% raise. Other employees that right now are eligible for up to a 3% COLA and up to another 3, right? Does the commission want to add the 6% possibility on top of the 7 that they just got?
Whose decision is it to add the 6% on top of the 7%? Was it the city manager, who was it?
It's our decision.
Is ours the budget? Okay, so that's outside of the range that we. Getting clarification.
Any other thoughts from here?
I want to add that, I mean, Mike's got to be an awesome boss. I mean, he's going to bat for a lot of people here, and I know where he's at. I've been there before. Man, I hate budget, especially in the banking side of it. It's terrible. But we're gonna have, I think the ho-hum here guy is, we're heading to a 2004 guy, I think worse. So I really think, and these guys deserve the 7%. They half the time she was at, I would call Judy and they were going over to her, going over to, what's her name's camp, just to study, and then go head to Tallahassee. I mean, it was all the time. you know, I think worst cases I'd go to 6, but I think we need, for the rest of the folks, I mean, in a 3 and a 3, you got your COLA.
and merit.
Merit, right?
Mr. Mayor, currently there's a 2% cost of living adjustment and an up to 4% merit,
So it's, okay.
potentially up to 6.
And now, while you're there, help me understand the difference between Commissioner Farnsworth, a 5% raise across the board. When we give a COLA, that shifts the wage scale, correct?
Correct.
When we give a raise, does that shift the wage range? It just shifts you up inside the current range? Because I think this is some of the confusion that Commissioner Mazon is talking about, is who sets the range? We do set the range in here. I've always found it very difficult to follow, right? And when I ask, what is the range for a certain position, right? It's like a 15-part, right, kind of thing, and trying to figure out how to move through that. So a COLA shifts the wage scale, right? A raise just shifts you inside that. So if I'm at the top of what the commission has approved, because every position has a cap eventually, right? This is the most you can make.
Right.
So if we have a raise, but someone's at that cap, even if they earned the raise, they wouldn't go over the raise, or would they?
So the commission's adopted policy states that if you're at the max of your pay scale and you get a merit raise, instead of that raise going into your base salary, you get it paid out as a bonus, so that next time you get a raise, that raise doesn't go on top of that raise. Does that make sense? So if you make $10 an hour and that's the max, and you're supposed to get a 2% raise, you just get 20 cents paid to you out. It doesn't go into your salary. That way your base salary doesn't increase every year until the cost of living and the ranges catch back up to you.
Yeah, I also don't want our city manager not taking money. He has, I mean, back to Mike, he's went 3 or 4 times without even getting raises, and made sure all his staff did. So Mike deserves the money. I don't know where he's at, how much he makes, but he needs to make what he deserves to make. I'm not throwing down anybody else, but Mike, I've sat here in these budgets and Mike's not getting anything. Has it been 4 times now since me and you've been on the diets? Yeah, so, I mean, you hear everybody else, even if we hit the gavel right now and went with what we're proposing, everybody's still gonna get a raise, and then here's Mike, he'll go, well, I'll go another year. I want Mike to get his money. He's done a great job here. We got, Dallas has got 7%, we got Judy that got their 7, I don't know how many total are y'all?
There's 6 in this cohort.
6 of y'all, they're getting the 7. They deserve it. That's where I'm at on that. I know what they've gone through for schooling wise, besides him.
Dallas?
He cheated off of everybody else.
It was really the other way around. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say that Mike doesn't deserve a raise. No. Mr. Mayor, the city manager's contract does state that if the commission gives a COLA or a across-the-board increase, that the manager gets it automatically. So he is not able to turn that down unless he renegotiated his contract.
Well, okay.
So if you gave a 5% raise, he would get that automatically.
Don't go far down. Do you have something, Commissioner Mazon? Thinking about that?
I'm gonna wait.
Do we pay, when we have this 2-year class, do we pay the employees when they're in the class? Is there any conversation along the way for it?
I think it paid their normal wage.
Are they doing the class during business hours? Or are they
So
doing the class?
No.
The class was Tuesday through Friday, so I think all of us worked 5-day week that week, 5 10-hour days. So we would work Monday and then we'd do class Tuesday through Friday. And then the class also had they had 8 homeworks and 8 exams that we had to do after hours that were above and beyond the typical workday.
Mr. Mayor, I would point out that all of those employees were salaried employees that have job responsibilities. Everyone that I'm aware of completed all their job responsibilities. I presume that was because they were working in the evenings on the day that they were in the class during the day. But we didn't miss any deadlines for getting agenda items put together. We didn't miss any city commission meetings. I presume that those employees got their regular duties done after hours so that they could attend class during regular hours.
I guess maybe before we get too far into making multiple decisions all at once, that maybe, Mr. Mayor, if you can just kind of lead us through just kind of parsing it out, as I see, where we are as far as proceeding with the 7% for the 6. That could be one part. And then whether or not we want to move forward with them also getting the potential additional 2 and 4 as another part. And maybe just start there and start picking this stuff off one by one.
I agree, and that was going to be my next question. So I've had the one concern is the 7, and then after you got the 7, are you eligible for anything on top of that? Commissioner Farnsworth has thrown in sort of an other concept of no COLA and no merit, really just 5% across the board. That does keep the pay scale in one range. I'm not exactly sure what the budgetary implications of it would be, because I think generally speaking with the COLA and the merits in past years, the averages end up being in the 4 to 5 range anyway. So maybe doing 5 raises, I'm just not sure. But the COLA does shift the scale a little bit, right? So I think that we might need to think on that one a little bit more.
Mr. Mayor, a couple things. The commission does not have to adopt the compensation plan tonight. We can adopt it at the next meeting. So if there's any hesitation about that, we can punt that item. Secondly, in the years that the city commission has not provided a COLA, we have still adjusted the pay plan by the cost of living so that our pay plan does not fall behind. So the commission has that option as well. You could still adjust the pay plan by a cost of living adjustment and do some other sort of wage adjustment for your employees. And then third, the budget, while it is 2% plus up to 4%, the budget was based off of an average of 4%.
Okay.
5%, we need to move money, but it's not an impossible task.
Okay, so I think we should take this one step at a time, but I think the manager would like to respond to some of these. Are there any other, is this the sole concern that we want to have a conversation about? Is there anything else that you want to talk to the manager about tonight? Commissioner Farnsworth?
I mean, I've got the adopted compensation plan here. And I'd like to have this broke down to where I can see what the yearly salary is for each position, along with benefits, how much we're paying in benefits for each position. I don't see the assistant city manager. Are they getting paid on top of their other position? Are they getting paid minimum for assistant city managers $40.64 per hour? Are they getting paid that on top of the other positions that they're holding, or how's that working?
Mr. Mayor, an employee in the city has one position that they get compensated for. So we have 2 employees that are recognized as assistant city managers, and they get paid within the range of the min to the max. I think both are close towards the max or at the max, but they get paid, at that pay classification within that range.
So they don't get compensated extra for being assistant city manager?
the compensation that they're due for the position is rolled into it. There's no additional, they don't have a stipend or for any other duties that they perform. I transmitted an email last week distinguishing that in some municipalities, the assistant manager really is just the number 2 city manager. He doesn't have responsibilities over any particular responsibility area. He just plugs in with all responsibility areas is the presumption. In Newberry, we promoted two people to assistant city manager because of the responsibility that they were taking on that exceeded their regular department head duties, and in my opinion, merited the increase. So when I started work here, the city had 7 department heads, and we had 5,000 residents to serve. And over a period of time, we felt that it was more efficient to reduce the number of department heads, run leaner. So now we are running with 5 senior officials, 2 assistant city managers, and 3 department heads. So, but 5 in what used to be 7. But every one of our assistant city managers oversee multiple responsibility areas, not just a single responsibility area. So that's the genesis of how we got here, and that's what merits it. But there is, to your first question, there is no additional compensation beyond what is you see in the pay grid for number 35.
Okay, so if we only had one assistant city manager, that wouldn't affect the other one, would it? I mean, their salary wouldn't necessarily change if you only have one city manager, or assistant city manager.
If you said we're only gonna fund one assistant city manager, then I would perceive that to be that somebody needs to take a pay cut, because I have understood that the city commission's concern is the amount of pay, not the title that goes with the pay. So if the city commission says we can't afford 2 assistant city managers, we're only gonna fund one of them, I interpret that, and I'll seek clarification, that somebody has to take a pay cut.
My concern is you have 2 assistant city managers, for whatever reason you're not here, and these 2 assistant city managers don't see eye to eye on something. You need to have one person that says, this is the way it is, I'm the one in charge. Do you have a senior assistant city manager, are they both?
No, sir. And so a couple things to that. Prior to us having any assistant city managers, we had 5 department heads. And prior to that, we had 7 department heads. And when the city manager was out of the office, he transmitted a memo that says, in my absence, one of those 5 or 7 is in charge and is the acting city manager. And under normal circumstances, and I'd say next week would be a great example. Tomorrow, the city commission will get an email from me that says I'll be out of the office, and during my absence, one of our 2 assistant city managers, in this case it's Dallas, will be the acting manager.
Okay.
And probably the next time I'm on vacation, the email will say the acting manager will be Jamie Jones. The one time in my 9 years working here where I didn't make that call was when I had a heart attack and I was in the hospital. And but our charter speaks to that. I didn't know what the solution was going to be with 2 managers until I returned, just like when I started working here. If I'd have had the heart attack on the 2nd day, there would have been 7 department heads to decide, well, who's going to be the acting city manager. And the charter says that that's the commission's decision to make. Matter of fact, if I name an acting city manager, and I will tomorrow, if the commission doesn't like it, they can meet and change it to someone else. So I don't understand that. I do see it as a point of confusion and maybe needing clarification. And that's a shortcoming of my lack of awareness. I will say that operationally, the conversation came up yesterday with both assistant city managers said that the decision was made that we were gonna tag team it, and from an operational perspective, it worked beautifully. One handled all of the financial, the inside activities, and the other one handled all the outside operational activities. It isn't how I would have drawn it up, and in my best day, I would have had a contingency plan anticipating that I might be out of the office unexpectedly. I failed to do that, but I think staff felt comfortable with the decision that the city commission made that we would have co-city managers for the period of time that I wasn't going to be in the office.
I mean, that was ultimately our decision, and we okayed that, so, but I was curious as if that had actually worked out the way, to our best advantage, but, I have no problem having two assistant city managers if you feel that's necessary. But I don't think we need to go above and beyond compensating them extra so much for that position to a certain point. I'm not sure how much of a involvement they have in the day-to-day decisions when you're away. So I don't know that we need to, I'm not sure how much extra they're getting paid for being in that position. I would really like to know that. Plus, I mean, there are other departments department heads that have extra duties also, so I'd like to know what they're getting paid extra for too.
Mr. Mayor, no one gets paid extra above their job classification. Our two assistant city managers have responsibilities, day-to-day responsibilities that are at a heavier load than our other department heads have. But the department head by title that's what you get paid. So I can just give you an example within the pay plan. Our assistant city managers are both at a pay grade 35. Our next department head down is probably the fire chief. Our fire chief is one pay grade below them at a pay grade of 34. That means his top out pay, his top out pay is 5% lower. We separate our grades by 5%. So if you're one pay grade below, then your top out pay will be 5% less. Now, our fire chief isn't topped out, so he's making somewhere in his range. Our fire chief's range is $80,496 to $120,744. 5% below the assistant city manager, which starts at $84,000 and tops at $126,000. So the 5% differential in the pay grades. I'm not sure the differential in compensation, just because I don't know where everyone is exactly within the pay grade. I do know that those three positions are all towards the upper end of their pay grade.
Okay, and on here you have, I see the Assistant Director of Finance, Assistant Director of Parks, Assistant Director of Utilities. Where are the Director? Director of Planning, I see. Director of Parks, I see. He's the Director of Finance on here.
Pay scale, because those positions no longer exist, but they were in the same pay scale as the fire chief when they did exist at 34.
So your position is Assistant City Manager, not Director of Finance?
Correct. But like I said, when those positions did exist, they were in the same as the fire chief in class number 34.
Went from a class 34 to a class 35, increased their top end pay by 5%.
So they max out at 126,
Correct.
700 a year.
Correct.
Are we close to that amount?
I believe that one is topped out. I believe the other is very close. So
Okay.
I don't know their exact salaries now, but I'd say they're both in the above 90% of the pay grid. But both have quite a bit of tenure with the city. One has 12 years of tenure with the city, and the other has 8 years of tenure with the city, and came to the city with 30 years of experience. So he didn't start at the entry level. He
Right.
would have started somewhere above midpoint, and he has progressed from where he started to top of the range over his 8-year career with the city.
But neither one of them have, what, a couple of years as assistant city manager.
Both of them have 3 years as
3
assistant
years,
city
okay.
managers.
Okay. All right. So if you're topped out, then you won't be getting a raise this year anyhow, would you?
Per what Dallas mentioned before, you don't get a pay increase that is compounded each year. Our policy is, and I think it's more than just our policy, but it is that if someone is due a merit increase, they receive it as they get paid for it, but it doesn't factor into their base salary, so that next year it doesn't compound and they just keep going up. Next year, if they get a 2% merit increase, then we'll divide it by 26 equal payments over the 26 payments in the year, and they'll get, I guess, it might be termed a bonus, although it's not. It's just additional pay that never factors into their base pay.
And the only way they would actually get a pay increase, a compounding pay increase, is if we increase the range.
Correct. That was what you were driving at.
I just went around the long way down.
Which
Okay.
is the reason why we're looking at the pay scale study, right? To see if the commission feels like it needs to be adjusted, right? That's the whole, to bring that circle all the way back to the conclusion, right?
And when will that be decided?
Well, we're still waiting on part two. Staff is gonna bring part two with some more regional numbers, and then.
So it's
commission
not gonna
asks-
affect this budget either way?
Well, I would say it depends on how long it takes part two to come, and then it depends on how long the commission needs to digest that information and to come to terms with it. I think it's clear that we still have some questions, that may just be comprehension questions between Commissioner Mazon's point, between who is setting the pay range here, and then how do we get to where we are in the pay range? So I think that's kind of part of what the commission has asked time to digest and ask more questions and those kinds of things. So I don't know if we'll get to it this year or not, but that's, once we finalize this point, we do have to decide there's $75,000 in the budget. If you guys think you want to address that this year, right? And then my memory of the workshop last night was there were $75,000 for a cemetery fence that we need to direct staff. So we have, once we're done with this conversation, we have two other points that will factor into this budget somewhere. So was there any other point besides the 7 plus the potential 6 that you wanted to talk about? And then if there's not, then I'll open up to the commission. And then again, I think the
No, I mean,
manager wants to respond.
I think,
Okay?
well,
Any other,
there's something else I want to bring up too.
any other points that the commission wants to discuss before we get into the budget? If there aren't, then I'll give the manager a chance to respond.
I mean, is there something else y'all want to go into the budget? Do I discuss it now, or do I?
I mean, we're about to vote on the budget, so.
Are we just talking on the, are we just still talking about now?
There's a section in the script where we're gonna pause and ask the commission, do they wanna make any changes?
Okay,
Now's an appropriate time or then, but I will say, if you don't speak now, there is another chance. You're gonna have an opportunity. It's written into the script. Does the commission wanna make any exceptions or changes to the proposed budget? Whatever it is, we'll address it then.
The other thing I want to bring up is I would like us to budget like $15,000 to the city clerk to purchase the software that she needs to do for her job.
Okay, point by point, are you gonna add another point?
Well, I have, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
I spoke with the city clerk this morning, and we found the money to fund that software, so it is in your proposed budget.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any other points before we move to the 75-75? Commissioner Martin, no? You look like you were.
I don't want to say too much
Okay. This,
on the table. So I'm fine just kind of trying to go point by point.
We get clarification on, is it a 5% across the board? Is
we're
it
working on that
COLA?
now, but I want to give the city manager has asked for a chance to respond. So I want to make sure he has that opportunity if he still wants that opportunity. I want to make sure you have it.
I would say to the commission that what is being proposed to not provide pay increases to the team members that received a 7% pay increase for completing the class. Conceptually, I don't personally have a lot of heartburn with. It was posed to me yesterday in what I would characterize as a bit of an ultimatum, and I declined. And I want the commission to know why I declined. And I want the commission to hear it from me, directly from my mouth, that if we start a budget cycle with a heads up that these are some of the things the commission like to see us do, we build a budget that is the commission's budget. I mean, we call it your budget, it is. But at this stage of the budget game, and that request was, could we do something with our senior staff to kind of freeze them to, and give pay increases to our less senior staff, I think is something that we could work into a budget and work it in well. But given the timing of where we were, the 7 that took that class that got those increases, they started 2 years ago. They were aware that there was funding coming with it. And if we get to the end of the process and we say, well, you guys got an increase for going to a class, so the increases that we are planning for all of your teammates, you're not eligible for, I think negates their 2 years in class. It just negates it and tells them that we were just kidding when you started the class 2 years ago. If the commission says we don't like the program, we think that 7% is too high, 10% is too high, we're going to take that feedback and we're going to adjust the program to the commission's will gleefully. If the commission says to us at the beginning of budget season, we think senior staff should make a lower percentage increase than our lower paid staff, we're going to put that in the budget and it's going to get approved by this commission gleefully with staff support. But when we go to the 11th hour, after the people took the class, received their pay increase, and get to the end with a balanced budget that has a millage rate reduction, and as best I can tell, every project in there that the commission asked for, and then we say, well, we think it's inappropriate that they got a 7% bonus and then are eligible, that they're no longer eligible for pay increases. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I will tell you that from October 1 last year to present, a number of employees have benefited from this educational incentive program that if you go get classes, when you complete them and you get a certificate, you're going to get a bump in pay. And I don't want to offer to the commission that none of those employees, it could be 50 employees, would then be eligible for the pay increase because they went through the educational assistance program. So my primary reason for objecting, one, we have a pay study that was completed that says that the most underpaid positions in the city are generally by our senior staff. And I didn't have one senior staff person object about that, complain about that, say I demand a raise about that. I haven't had one of our senior staff people come to me and say, I'm going to need more money to stay here. It's a competitive world. What are you doing for me? What I get from senior staff is 50-hour work weeks, happy to do it. They love being part of this team. And someone mentioned their tenure here. The reason that we have such long tenure here, we are blessed with incredible staff that do incredible things, but they genuinely like coming to work here, and they're willing to come to work for less than market to serve the citizens of Newberry and to serve this elected board. So again, if we start at the beginning of budget cycle and Mike, senior staff needs to shoulder a little bit more than the rest of our staff, I think you get full buy-in from your senior team, just like you've gotten full buy-in from your senior team for the entire 9 years I've been here. But the way this was presented at the 11th hour with a pay study that says they're all underpaid, and saying that we want to take away something that they understood was coming to them 2 years ago, I feel it's inappropriate, and that's the primary reason why I objected. I don't want to be objectionable to this board. I understand who my bosses are. I understand the hierarchy of our community, and I don't want it to be different. But I adamantly oppose a last-minute change to the budget that would take key players to the city and would reduce pay that we all anticipated and built a balanced budget around. And I assure you, we built a balanced budget with no inclination that we would get to tonight's meeting and there would be discussion about pulling their pay. Everybody built it with all the gusto. You know, we've mentioned several times in here, we started the budget process with a 5% cut in all department areas because we felt like it was warranted. That this community, we knew tough economic times were coming. We understand that our commission is fiscally conservative. And so our team, I ask them on a Monday morning, and I ask them to have it done by close of business on Thursday. And as far as I know, every department complied, including the clerk's department, because she's part of the team. I would mention that in her 5% reduction, the clerk offered a software program that was worth about $15,000 that she would like and that she needs. And so it was removed from the budget at her suggestion, not at anybody else's suggestion. I just want the commission to be aware of that. And so they don't think that we're having internal politics that is penalizing one position over the other. So I want to be clear. I'm here to serve the commission, and I believe our leadership team is here to serve the commission. I feel like that what is being proposed, I understand the sentiments behind it, and generally find that I agree with the conservative nature of this commission to a T. I just think that at this late stage of the budget, with a balanced budget in front of you and a report that says the 4 of your senior staff people are significantly underpaid, I can't support that, and I feel that it's important that I publicly state my support of our senior staff to get, in this instance, the same pay increase that the commission has planned for every other employee in the city and is currently funded in our budget with a millage rate reduction. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that opportunity.
Absolutely. But give me 1 second. I'm only going to object to 2 things. One, I would object to the use of the word ultimatum. I think that was an attempt at a compromise position. I don't ever remember issuing an ultimatum. And then 2, just to the claim that this was an 11th hour, the commission brought this concern to me 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So it was a compressed concern, but as soon as the commission brought this concern to me, I brought it to the manager and said, hey, we got a budget coming. We need to figure out how to address the commission's concerns. So it's been kind of a long process to try to get to what I would characterize as a compromise position. So those would be the only 2 points that I would other than that, I think the manager, hang on 1 second, Commissioner Farnsworth was first to the mic, but other than that, I think the manager made an eloquent argument. Commissioner Farnsworth?
The employees that took the class, are they required to work a certain amount of years to pay back that? the amount we paid towards the class?
I'll let Dallas answer that question, because I know the answer is in some cases yes, but I don't know specifically these employees.
Mr. Mayor, for this particular class, the answer is no. We typically don't require those paybacks for classes under $5,000. This class, all told, was less than $4,000 per employee over the 2 years.
Does that include the salary?
It does not include the salary.
So while they were doing the class during work hours, that you don't include that?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's actually more than 4,000, all right.
If you include that, then yes, but for any position that we send to a class or certification, we look at the actual cost that we paid for the class and the certification.
So I think, like the firefighters, if they go and take a paramedic class and then they decide to leave, then they have to pay us back a certain amount of money for that, correct?
Correct.
So how come this doesn't apply to this situation?
Because the paramedic class, I believe, is $9,000 a firefighter. And like I said, anything under 5,000, we don't typically do the reimbursement agreements for.
Commissioner Coleman?
For, since I've been on here and I had be part of bringing in Mike, he makes a really good argument. He really does. I just know how the economy is going, where we're heading. And I'm not saying let's kick the can down the road one more year, but I think we should. It just keeps bringing me back to those years when Mike did not get a salary or increase. And the worst thing with as fast as we're growing is having strife. I'm not trying to get too biblical here, but that's the way it's leading. He said, she said, we did, we didn't. All that needs to just kick it on, go. We don't need that. We got a balanced budget. We got we got money in the bank, and I guess what I'm saying is we got to be. We're going to need to be tight, but and we didn't increase our millage rate, so I think that we need to go ahead and approve this budget as is, and not fight over this. I like where our staff's at. I want the main thing is I just want the lower tier guys to get a raise. That's where I'm at, and I guess if they're the department heads are the ones that decide, what the percentage is. That's it. I'm not bowing in, guys. I'm not doing that. It's just that overall, everything needs to be non-controversial here. We're not. No means are we blowing the doors down and making our higher staff millionaires and all that. I mean, I've heard that today twice, and we're not doing that. I don't agree with the study. I don't agree with some of that. It will be interesting to see what comes in, but we need to let dead dogs lie and go on with typical business here and not have the strife. We don't need it. We got a lot of things to tackle coming up, staff-wise.
Okay, I don't want to stop the conversation, but I want to move us along because we still got the other two. So let's point by point. And again, we're missing one, that's fine, because we get a second reading. So if we're 2-2, right, we just leave it the way it is, we come back to it when the other
Right.
one comes in. But let's take this point by point just as a head nod so we can get into this script. So on the 7, if you got the 7%, you want to still make the employees eligible for what's in the budget, the COLA and the.
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Maison?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll leave it the way it is in the budget. We'll come back to that point on second reading. On the 75,000 for the wage study, do you want to leave that in the budget for the wage study, Commissioner Coleman? I'm gonna come back to you, Commissioner
Yeah,
Farnsworth.
come back to me.
Commissioner Martin.
Is it to pay for the wage study?
It's 75,000 this year, and it begins to shift our employees into the other scale.
Okay.
And then it's 250 next year to finalize getting everybody into the next range.
250 total, so the 75 would be
We
this
come
year.
off of the 250.
Yeah.
Okay. So do
Staff's
you want to
initial
put,
plan was 75 every year for 3 years to get us there.
okay. So do you want, so Commissioner Coleman's still thinking about the study.
Yeah.
He said he doesn't agree with it, or he doesn't agree with parts of it. So if you don't agree with the study, then the 75 just needs to come back to something else. If you're still digesting the wage study, which is why we're waiting for part 2, then you might want to leave it in there in case the digestion says, okay, now I agree with it. So I'm going to come back to you.
Honestly, I don't really care about, and that's probably not the right word, about the wage study, because across the board, I see a lot of egregious spending in government, just across the board. So when we start comparing to things that I don't agree with to begin with, then that's just kind of problematic for me. And as I expressed to the city manager also, I don't need to be told how much a Ferrari is worth. I just can't afford a Ferrari to begin with. But I just think by and large, a lot of governments are overcompensating employees. So when we start saying, well, they're making this much, or they're making this much, hey, okay, well, and then if you, if that means we have to, stomach the heartache of you going to improve yourself somewhere else, then I guess that's what we, can do. So I don't really have a whole lot of faith in or value in the wage study, quite honestly.
So the 75 comes back into the general fund for you?
75 come back.
Commissioner Coleman, there's 3 already, but I still like to know. 75 coming back, leave it in. I gave you all this time, all this time.
I'm like teetering here.
All right, then I'm gonna go with 3 because it's getting late. What was the fine, and then the 75 for the
I
cemetery?
would really be interested in what they come back with.
Well, I still want to hear part 2. I think there's value in, we've got this far. I need the data. I think we still have some confusion here about wages and scales and how we're doing those kinds of things. So I think there's value in having that conversation. But I've got 3 votes, so let's go to the cemetery fence. Cemetery fence, 75,000.
No.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin? Leave 75 in. Remember, we probably won't build it. for
Yeah,
another
last
2
night I was
budget
talking
cycles.
about at least having it in the budget, but after I left, I started thinking about, why can't we just maybe build a hedge, plant a hedge? I can't imagine that would be 75,000. If it's in the, what? Sure, no, understood, but it's still, that's what, $6,000 a month? I don't think we got $6,000 a month worth of maintenance per se. So.
Bring it back.
It doesn't really need to,
Doesn't need to stand for this year.
well, let me see. I'm not opposed to keeping it in the budget. I just don't think we probably need to spend it on a cemetery.
Yeah, well,
If that makes sense.
once we know if we want it for the fence, then the question becomes, do we leave it in the budget? Do we reduce the millage rate? Do we reduce the rate? Do we fund, I know we've already found the money for the program. We need 35,000 for the downtown stormwater assessment. So that's the second conversation, but the first conversation, because if it's in the budget for the cemetery fence, then it's there, right? And that's what it's for. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a nice fence but, Yeah, I don't think we need to spend $75,000 on a cemetery fence. I think we
Okay.
can find some other
Okay.
acceptable alternatives.
Commissioner Maison, 75 for the fence.
I say keep it in the budget, keep it there, and not spend it yet.
Okay, so you were at three say no budget for the fence just yet. So, okay. That's 3 points, right? So the 75 for the wage study comes back into the general fund. The cemetery comes back, that's 150, so we need to deal with that. The wages will stay the way they are right now. Second reading, we'll get a tie-breaking vote, right? And you will help us figure out where to make those amendments as we go.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Dallas.
Mayor. One suggestion, one question. Due to the fact that we have a split vote on the compensation, I would recommend that we table the compensation plan until the next meeting and not vote on it
It's
tonight.
getting late, yeah.
It's getting late. Second question, and again, this does not need to be decided tonight, but will need to be decided by our final vote. There's $150,000 the commission has just freed up in your budget. There's a couple options. You can lower your millage rate should you choose. There is debt that is planned in this budget. You could use that money to offset the debt that we plan to issue. You could fund a different project. So staff will need direction on what you want to do.
That's coming.
At the very least, we can just put it in contingency and the commission can decide later. But
Okay, do you know off the top of your head what the 150 is in a millage reduction? Is that .001?
give me 2 minutes, I'll tell you.
Okay, all right. Okay, we got our points. Are we ready for a script? No? Well, you're calculating now. Well, I've got like a whole paragraph before you come on, right? Okay,
If we're,
Commissioner Coleman?
if we're delaying it,
No.
we're not
Well, finish the sentence. If we're delaying what?
reading this in.
No. We're voting on the budget. We have to vote on the budget. The compensation study is a separate resolution, right? We can
Okay.
table that. We only have to do that. Resolutions are one time. So we can do that at second reading of the budget, right? At the end, that's no problem.
Okay.
Okay? So, we ready? Any final thoughts? Everybody's got everything off their chest? Everybody feels good? Everybody's one big happy family again? We'll get there.
No, I'm gonna catch it.
We'll get there.
It don't matter.
We'll get there. All right. This is the introduction public hearing on City of Newberry fiscal year 23-24 tentative budget. City of Newberry Commission hereby convenes a public hearing on the City of Newberry's fiscal year 23-24 tentative millage and tentative budget as required by Florida statutes, chapter 129 and 200, and as advertised in the truth in millage notices. If anyone in our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their tax assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should be filed no later than 5 p.m. next Monday, September 11th, 2023. Petition forms are available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we'll take a number of actions related to the adoption of millage and budgets. The final public hearing on these matters will be held on Monday, September 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the same location, Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers. I encourage, if you're not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comments will be taken following the proposed budget overview by the city manager and the chief financial officer. City attorney will now present an overview of the truth in millage legislation, followed by the city manager and chief financial officer's explanations of the tentative and rollback millage rates. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as the Truth in Millage legislation, or the TRIM Act as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which the local taxing authority budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the property's taxable value within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives this information, he or she then sends a notice by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the taxing authority's information on the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice is sent to the taxpayers and it is called the TRIM notice. The TRIM notice lists what the taxes were for the prior year, what the taxes will be for if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information is listed for each taxing authority. The notice also lists the voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the trim notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The presentation of the budget for commission consideration is one of my most important duties as your manager. As mandated by Florida law and our city's charter, I am happy to present you with a balanced budget. I'm pleased to report that the state of Newberry's government is strong. Our finances are in order, and our talented team is up to the opportunities and challenges for the upcoming year. Our many years of responsible financial planning have built a strong foundation that allows us to deliver the high-quality services our residents have come to expect. This year's tentative budget presents particular challenges. We continue to operate in a period of financial uncertainty. Inflation is affecting everything we do in government. Costs are rising, from energy to construction materials to goods and services to insurance rates. Supply chain constraints continue to pressure our operations as obtaining the items we need becomes increasingly difficult. This is particularly difficult as we are poised to undertake many major capital improvement projects. Additionally, our workforce has not been insulated from the Great Resignation as we continue to struggle to attract and keep talented employees. Recent studies reveal that in addition to baby boomers retiring, Americans leave work due to low pay, lack of opportunities for investment, feeling disrespected in the workplace, and feeling unfulfilled at work. Our team takes these challenges very seriously and is working to create an environment where people can flourish, grow, and serve our residents to the best of their ability. My budget message is simple. Facing these uncertainties, we must continue to exercise fiscal prudence, and caution. Therefore, it is my recommendation that with few exceptions, we adopt a continuation budget in many areas at a reduction of cost. The budget I present tonight builds on the foundation this commission has set for sound financial planning and works to balance the cost of providing services to our residents with the economic pressures we know our community is facing. During this year's budget process, the commission held 5 budget workshops to discuss the budget for fiscal year 2024 publicly. The budget was prepared with a focus on the city's future, what we want our commission to look like, and how we get there. City staff used the commission's adopted strategy as a roadmap in developing the budget and ensured that we incorporate the plan's goals into this year's funding plan. The commission clearly heard our community's desire for a focus on long-term infrastructure by funding the expansion and extension of 2 downtown roads to alleviate traffic and provide connectivity, and by investment in our water and wastewater infrastructure, the expansion of City Hall to provide our residents a single place to conduct their business with the city, and numerous parks and recreation projects. This budget incorporates the goals and objectives outlined in the strategic plan by continuing these important infrastructure projects. In addition to these investments in our future, the commission has prioritized the hard work of our staff who make all these projects happen and who constantly are setting the bar high for local government. The commission has once again shown the trust and belief they have in our staff by providing merit raises and continuing to work on lowering the cost of dependent health care. On top of all that, the commission embarked on a road to implement impact fees. This tool will provide future commissions with decades with the tools needed to perfectly plan for the city's growth and our bright future. This year's budget, we plan for our first ever road project funded through impact fees. The City Commission and our dedicated staff have collaborated extensively to minimize the financial impacts to our residents. I am pleased to report that this budget is set at a tentative millage rate of 5.9000 mills, marking a property tax reduction for our community. This is the second consecutive year that the city has achieved this reduction. In comparison to neighboring communities, some of which are raising taxes by up to 1 mil, Newberry stands on a solid fiscal foundation, reflecting our strong financial management. With a vision on the commission and our community at the forefront, your staff has spent an enormous amount of time weighing the available funding and the many competing needs for providing services to our community. I want to thank our department heads and other charter officers for being cognizant of the unique challenges we face for presenting budgets that reflect the goal of reducing the burden of the city's taxpayers while providing the highest level of service. Dallas Lee, our Assistant City Manager, Chief Financial Officer, will lead us through the discussion of the millage and the budget.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. One of the requirements of the truth in millage legislation is to provide information about why the tentative millage rates are higher or lower than the rolled back millage rate. The tentative millage rate for the city of Newberry is 5.9000 mils, which is 9.63% more than the rolled back rate of 5.3819 mils. The rolled back millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added due to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The City of Newberry's tentative millage rate is the rate at which the Commission has, through due study and consideration, determined is needed to fund the municipal operations of the City of Newberry in the best interest, public health, and welfare of its citizens. The tentative millage rate is lower The tentative millage rate is lower than what was levied in the prior year, marking the second consecutive year the Commission has reduced its property taxes. However, the TRIM process requires that a notice of tax increase be advertised when the current year's proposed aggregate millage rate exceeds the calculated aggregate rolled back millage rate. The aggregate rolled back millage rate is calculated by dividing the prior year's estimated property tax revenues by the current year's taxable property value divided by 1,000. The current year's taxable value does not include new construction or annexed values. For the 2023 tax year, the proposed millage rate of 5.9000 is 9.63% greater than the rollback rate of 5.3819, resulting in an advertising of a tax increase. The City Commission previously adopted a preliminary millage rate of 5.9999 mils. The City Commission may adopt a millage rate up to this rate. Increasing the millage to this rate would generate approximately $65,000 additional dollars. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, as the City Manager mentioned, this was a difficult budget year for most local governments, which has led to several of your peers considering substantial millage rate increases. The City of Alachua is proposing a half mill increase, and City of High Springs and Gainesville are both proposing full mill increases. Only two governments in Alachua County are proposing millage rate decreases this year, Alachua County and the City of Newberry. Your decision to lower the property tax rate for the second consecutive year stands out and speaks volumes about your commitment to fiscal stewardship. This commission should take great pride in this achievement as it underscores your dedication to our residents' well-being and Newberry's economic health. Mr. Mayor, the 2023-2024 tentative budget summary for all funds of the City of Newberry summarizes all revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $26,291,659, and reserves brought forward in the amount of $16,875,406, for total revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $43,167,065, and appropriations in the amount of $27,828,010, with reserves appropriated in the amount of $15,339,055. For total appropriations of $43,167,065, which is a net increase from the amended fiscal year 2023 budget of $33,946,148. The primary driver of this increase is related to increased grant funding, implementation of impact fees, and the infrastructure sales surtax. The proposed general fund budget is $14,154,809. The proposed capital improvements fund budget is $120,800. The proposed special revenue funds budgets total $9,729,986. The proposed enterprise funds budgets total $17,461,943, and the proposed internal service fund budgets total $1,699,527. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the tentative budget presented to you this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about the budget at this time.
Commission have any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
The City of Lotchway half-meal increase in High Springs and Gainesville full meal increase, is that based on their rollback rate?
No, their rollback rate would be lower than their current, I don't know what the rollback rate is, but I know countywide, there was at least a 10% increase in property values, so their rollback rate would be lower than their current adopted millage.
So
So
then,
they're increasing above
Their current rate.
above their current rate.
above the current rate?
If they kept their current rate, they'd be increasing above the millage, above the rollback, and they're increasing even further than that.
Okay, so we have a 9.63% increase in our millage rate based on our rollback rate.
Based on the rollback rate, correct, but the actual rate charged to your residents is going down. Last year,
But they're gonna be paying more though.
based on your home value, but the rollback rate doesn't necessarily mean that the residents are paying more. It includes all sorts of things.
Is that your only question, Commissioner?
Yep.
Any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Martin?
Dallas, just for discussion purposes, on page 8, those proposed budget there that you just kind of concluded with, can you give us a couple of examples of things that are paid for out of those budgets?
So, Mr. Mayor, in the general fund is your kind of catch-all. That includes things such as yourselves, the fire department, law enforcement, finance, facilities, planning, parks and recreation, streets and roads. Generally, all those things you think of as kind of government services. Your capital improvement fund is a special revenue fund we created many years ago to accumulate revenue for capital improvements. So currently, the cemetery fence is in that budget, as well as some other small capital. If the commission remembers, a few years ago, you adopted a public service tax and directed staff that the revenue created from that has to go to capital improvements. You also increased your solid waste fees and stated that those revenues had to go to capital improvements. So to show that we're doing that, we transfer that money into your capital improvement fund. Your special revenue funds include wild spaces, infrastructure sales surtax funds, your impact fee funds, your development fee funds, the ARPA money, the opioid task force fund, Champions Park fund, all those specific things where the money can only be spent on a specific reason, so it's segregated out from the general fund. Your enterprise funds are your utilities, electric, water, wastewater, and mosquito control. And then your internal service funds include customer service. It includes Jamie's administration. So instead of, when Jamie buys a pencil, him charging it to like 8 different departments he oversees, he's in one department that then bills back. It also includes your VERF in that fund as well.
Other commission questions?
What was our rate last year?
Their millage rate, 5.9244. That was the previous year. Last year, you reduced it from 5.9999
They're blurring together.
to 5.9244.
Last call? Hey, are we supposed to read the resolution in before we invite citizen comments up? Are we there? Resolution 2023-06, not there yet. Okay.
Top of
Now,
page 9.
now I'd like to invite citizens to comment on the fiscal year 2023-24, proposed millage rates and proposed budget. Please come forward to the podium or call in. No, we're not doing the call in anymore. We got to update this script. Yeah. Come forward to the podium using the instruction. No. We request that each speaker limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has had an opportunity to speak. Miss Peggy, all right. Happy, reducing, okay. I'll now close the public comment section of this public hearing. Mr. CFO.
Mr. Mayor, the document before you, included in your agenda packet, is the City of Newberry fiscal year 2023-2024 budget summary, which includes all items described earlier. Any additional adjustments to this tentative budget and millage should be made by motion at this time. As a reminder, the millage rate the commission adopts now will be the highest rate the commission can adopt at its final hearing.
Okay, so at this point, with the 150, we can take it down, that's no problem. So we can adopt the budget now, we can vote on this. If the commission decides to just use the 150 to reduce the millage, that's no problem, right? Commissioner
You can always
Farnsworth?
reduce, you can't increase.
Increase.
Can that 150 go towards the electric? Or is it-
We can't move from the general fund into the utilities.
So that we don't have to increase the rate of our electricity and
Mr. Mayor, transferring from your general fund into your utility funds is a sign of financial distress in the state's eyes. So if you were to do that, your auditors would write you up and report you to the state.
We
they
wouldn't
would
get
write.
that.
You
write
can
me-
do it.
They'd write me up?
They'd write the city of Newberry up.
We wouldn't get that national
It would-
accreditation award anymore.
I'd still get it, because
Oh, yeah?
I'd report it properly.
Or the audit.
Yeah, I'd report that we did it. It would also just kick the can down the road, because next year you would need a higher rate increase, because that 150 is a one-time revenue source.
Okay. Any other questions? You want to make any adjustments? Commissioner Martin?
Did you calculate how much the 100?
I did, yes, sir. And then I wrote it down on a page that I don't remember. Mr. Mayor, the $150,000 would result in a potential reduction of 0.21 mils.
Oh, that's a lot more than I thought. I was in point
It
zero
would,
one.
for the average resident, it would be $52 a year.
That's pretty good. All right, everybody sleep on that. We don't have to decide right now. Unless that's what you want to do, sorry, now. No? Sleep on it? Okay. Adoption of resolution establishing fiscal year 2023 proposed general city rates. Mr. CFO?
Florida statutes require the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, and the rolled back rate, and the percentage increase over the rolled back rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that a proposed millage rate of 5.9000 mils is necessary to fund the tentative general municipal budget. The proposed millage rate represents an increase of 9.63% from the rolled back rate of 5.3819 mils.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Attorney, would you please read resolution 2023-06?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, the resolution before the commission right now is resolution number 2023-06. Resolution determining and adopting tentative rate of. Oops, sorry about that. The resolution before the commission is resolution number 2023-06. It is a resolution determining and adopting the tentative rate of taxation on real and personal property and the making of the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the city of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2023-2024, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2023-06 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Sir.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution? I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions from the dais? Citizen comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Attorney, would you please read resolution 2023-07?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution of the city of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, providing for the tentative appropriation of funds of the city of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, ending September 30th, 2024. Approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing for publication of notice, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2023-07 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-07? I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments, questions on the motion floor of the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Mr. CFO.
A public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and the final budget for the general city purposes on Monday, the 25th of September, 2023, at 7:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard in the Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers at 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the next three items relate to your utilities. The City of Newberry establishes utility rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually during the budget process and, if warranted, recommends rates be adjusted. Staff utilizes models for developing its utility rates to forecast the number of customers, electric and water consumption, wastewater generation, and anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues that are sufficient to meet the expenses associated with providing water, wastewater, and electric services to our residents. As you know, many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased. At the City Commission's Utility Budget Workshop, city staff presented the proposed rate changes, and the City Commission gave consensus to include those rates in our tentative budget. The city will need to file additional reports with the Public Service Commission to inform them of the proposed rates. Electric rates are proposed to be adjusted by 3% for an average residential impact of $3.42 per month. Non-residential rates are proposed to be adjusted similarly. Additionally, this ordinance corrects inconsistencies between the city's ordinance and our adopted tariffs relating to insurance requirements for solar customers.
Mr. Attorney, would you please
Yes,
read
sir.
ordinance 2023-26?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida pertaining to electric utility services in the City of Newberry to amend and revise Section 98-63, subsections 1, 2, 3, and 8, and Section 98-70, subsections H and I of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry pertaining to energy charged, providing for codification of same, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2023-26 upon its first reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman. Second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor of the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. CFO.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, Newberry is not unique in its need to increase utility rates this year. As indicated on the screen, most of the surrounding communities are grappling with hikes in their utility rates. However, what sets Newberry apart is our ability to implement these adjustments and still provide the most competitive rates for our services. This commitment showcases the dedication to balancing financial sustainability and affordability for our residents. Water rates were adjusted by 7% in the consumption charges and also the customer charge for an average residential impact of $1.83 per month. This rate keeps the city's rates as some of the lowest rates in the area. This rate increase also works towards the Commission's goal of operating self-sustaining utility enterprises. Per the City Commission's policy, the rate increase is commensurate with the Public Service Commission's published Consumer Price Index for water and wastewater of 7.07%. The 2022 average statewide bill for water service was $41.72. The proposed 2024 average water bill in the City of Newberry is $34.41. Wastewater rates are proposed to be adjusted by 10% in both the consumption and customer charge for an average residential impact of $4.52 per month. This rate increase keeps the city's rates as the lowest residential rates in the area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goal of operating self-sustaining utility enterprises. In accordance with the City Commission's policy, staff work to keep these rates in line with the Public Service Commission's published Consumer Price Index for water and wastewater of 7.07%. However, due to several cost drivers, staff could not balance the budget at this rate. One of the primary drivers behind this rate increase is additional permit compliance requirements placed on the city by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and inflationary factors. One example of the increased FDEP regulations include a new requirement for the disposal of our biosolids from the wastewater treatment plant, which we estimate the cost of being $150,000 alone. Even after these proposed rate changes, the city will offer competitively low rates compared to other utilities in our areas. The 2022 average statewide bill for wastewater services was $65.22. The proposed 2024 average wastewater bill in the City of Newberry is $62.74. Customers were properly notified in their August bills. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Commission have any discussion? I don't have any now because we're the lowest, but I will have some on the future ones where we're not quite the lowest. Commissioner Farnsworth.
Yes, so with these proposals, I guess we're going to be increasing the average utility bill about $10 per month.
Just under 10.
Talking about all of them together, because
Yeah.
we're on wastewater right now.
Right.
But all of them put together is just under 10.
And I don't know, it seems kind of excessive to me, but I don't know if there's anything else that can be done about it. It just seems.
Right now, we're still the lowest, but when we get to the next ones, we'll see if we can get a nickel, right? Just get us right back to that number one spot. Any other comments on the wastewater? Okay, Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2023-27 into the record for us?
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates in section 98.98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2022-43, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2023-27 upon its first reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Let's see. Mr. Attorney, would you please read? That was 2023-27, right? And we're going straight to 28. Okay, so I have a typo on my script. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2023-28 into the record now? Are you on 25 too?
On the screen if you need it.
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the city of Newberry amending the prior established rates and amending sections 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2022-25. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2023-28 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I have that motion? Motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison. Second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions, motion from the dais?
What is this even?
This is water rates.
Yeah, this is the water rates. And we didn't have our little graph there. This is where I wanted to, is that
So you
water
read
rate?
water and wastewater together, but we're passing them separately.
And this is the one where we're now second.
Latch was beating us by 5 cents.
Guys, come on, we could find 5 cents.
So moved. So moved.
To move to find 5 cents?
No.
You want to find 5 cents? I got a motion, wait, I already had a motion. Motion was Commissioner Maison, second was Commissioner Coleman. Anybody, we could do a county thing, see if we want to make a substitute motion to find 5 cents. We'll get
Mr. Mayor,
everybody in the room confused.
We have a second reading, we can come back with 5 cents.
Comments, questions on the motion floor from the dais?
Yeah, I think that the people that don't use the services shouldn't be allowed to vote on them.
That means there's only one vote.
There's two, you know.
All right. Commissioner Maison, you got any comments, questions? You want to find 5 cents?
I would love to find 5 cents, yeah.
You made the motion.
It's easy to charge other people.
We'll do it on the first read. We'll come back to it. We're going to find 5 cents by the second
I
reading.
say we find it.
I will find you
Public
5 cents.
comments or questions? Any public want to find 5 cents? I just want to beat Alachua. I love to beat Alachua.
We're already beating by millage.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. You just wait to see if I was listening. Okay, let's see. That was 28. We're now, that concludes the first public hearing of the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2024 budget and millage rates. The final public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and final budget for general city purposes on Monday, the 25th of September, 2023 at 7:00 p.m. That's going to move us to item 9, which is FDEP State Revolving Fund Drinking Water Elevated Storage Tank Design Loan Application and Resolution. Mr. Attorney, would you please read Resolution 2023-51 into the record for us?
Yes, sir. Happy to do so. This is a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2023-51 as read by title only.
Okay, do you have a presentation, or do you want to?
I just have a quick blurb, but I don't
Let me have a motion then, and then we'll go to the blurb. We'll do out of order. Okay, give us the blurb, so I don't have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, this resolution is part of the state revolving fund requirements for FDEP. This is a loan application for design funds in the amount of $566,000 plus loan service fees. This is for your wastewater tank out on State Road 26. In June of this year, we were awarded $1 million in a legislative appropriation. We're planning to use that appropriation to pay off the remainder of the planning loan at $179,000, as well as our engineering, design, and project management administration, which will leave, as part of this project, $254,000 for construction. As part of the loan process, DEP requires the authorization of this loan application, the loan agreement, establishment of pledged revenues, and designation of authorized representatives via resolution.
All right, thank you, sir. Now do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-51? I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon. Second from Commissioner Coleman. Questions?
So we have repeat what you were saying about, we have $1 million from the state, right?
We got $1 million legislative appropriation.
Okay.
We're gonna use that to pay off the existing portion of the loan, and then we'll take
What's the
this.
existing portion?
Was the planning portion, was $179,000 to do the planning document that FDEP requires.
We already paid that.
We took debt for it, yes. But we're gonna pay that debt off with the grant.
Okay.
And then we'll use the remaining portion of the grant plus this money for the design and construction of the wastewater, or of the water tower.
So when the design cost is,
We haven't gone to bid yet, but we've been allocated up to $566,000. It's a drawdown grant, so we'll just draw whatever we end up needing.
right,
Once we get the bids back in.
so then there's the 127.5, the remaining of the money, or the $1 million is to construct, or go towards the construction,
Towards the construction,
which is estimated to be about
about $5 million.
$5 million.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Coleman?
5 million's low bid,
We haven't gone to bid yet.
but you know, it's gonna be around 5 million.
That's what we think. Once we get further into the design process, we'll have engineered numbers for you.
Dallas, just to quickly, can we review what the funding sources are to pay for this?
Because my funding manager left.
Well, we've received a legislative appropriation that will go towards construction. We have an SRF loan that backs up everything that's not funded by another source. Our water,
This is the voting on that SRF loan.
yeah, and our water cap charges, capacity charges that we charge when someone pulls a building permit, those revenues are allocated to projects such as this. We'll continue to solicit other grants, both through legislative appropriation and through all the grant programs that are out there. So that those are typically this project shouldn't show up in rates. Usually building additional capacity should come from the development that warrants it, and I haven't done the math, but this one is gonna be constructed near Tanglewood. If we do the water impact fee times the number of ERUs, building permits that are gonna be pulled out there, I imagine that Tanglewood and any developments out on the east side of town will generate revenue sufficient to cover the debt service created by this elevated storage tank.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. And we actually have not finalized the specific location of where that's gonna be on that property, correct?
We have.
We have.
We
have.
We did the study and we couldn't move it. So we did
Right.
fulfill what we told the resident we would do, and that's the spot it's gotta be.
It's in the middle south part of the property,
It's
It's on the east boundary.
west,
on the west,
Right
boundary,
upper
I'm
east
sorry.
boundary.
so behind the
the nursery.
And in today's world, we lack sufficient storage capacity. If you do the analysis of the storage capacity that you should have for a community our size and for a water system that's serving the size that we are, we're substandard. That is an accurate statement. We don't have as much storage as we're supposed to have. This is one of 2 tanks that will come online that will meet that and actually exceed it. It'll provide storage capacity for the city moving many years into the future.
Is the developer that's gonna be building the second one, is there any economies of scale to speed up the installation of that one while they're already in the area?
And,
Do you want him to come up and elaborate?
Sure.
Jamie, can you, come up and tell us why there's no
So there's
economies of scale?
there's no interest in building theirs now, or there's just no economies of scale?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, no, there's no economy of scale because each site is specifically loaded geotechnically and the tank designed for that. You would have to do all that legwork that we've been working on for 2 years to get to that point. We're not there with that one to the southwest portion of the city. And I would elaborate, this is not only the tank for the east part of 26, but this is a 12-inch water main that connects to it, and the water main's looping back to existing infrastructure in that area.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
At what point in time would we need another sewer plant?
Well, we're building one right now.
We're
I know
currently,
we're upgrading.
Yeah. No, we're
but,
building.
Are we we would need another one on the east side of town or the north side of town, or?
the facility is under design now that has to be constructed by March of 2026 is projected to be a 20 to 30-year facility or better. But that's all dependent upon growth, change of regulations, whatnot, as to when you may need to either expand it or build another one. The way we are designing 1.2 million gallons worth of treatment right now with the ability to add a third treatment train when you need to, that would take it up to 1.8. And we're currently trying to reserve effluent disposal to meet that ultimate 1.8 million gallon per day build out.
And 1.8, how many households is that?
1.8 million divided by 250 gallons per ERU. I cannot do that math in my head this late at night.
What's wrong with
About
you?
6,300,
6,300 houses?
yes.
But we already have how many on board?
Additional.
Additional?
Yeah,
Tim's on a septic tank, so that helps us out. It takes one off.
Me too.
You want me to, am I allowed to vote for that?
No.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jamie while we got him here?
No.
Takes him a lot to get up out of the chair, Jamie. I don't know if you've seen him. All right. Any other questions?
7,200.
I had a motion from Commissioner Mazon, seconded by Commissioner Coleman, right? Any other questions on the dais? Public questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. New item 10 was the wage compensation study, and we're gonna table that, so I need a motion.
Motion to table that.
Have a motion to table it, and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Mazon made the motion. Commissioner Farnsworth, you had a question?
So it'll still be needed to be voted on twice?
No, it's a resolution, so we just have to vote on it once, so we can vote on it at the second reading of the budget, right? We'll table it for the second reading of the budget, September 25th. We had dice questions, public questions on the motion on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to comments. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be out of town, beginning Sunday. From Sunday through Friday, 10, 12 days later. During my absence, Dallas will be the acting city manager. I'll be out of the country, so, I might get the occasional text. I'll probably do the occasional email check, but I will not be readily available if you need to have a telephone call. But I would say that same rules apply as in terms of inside, outside. If you think it's a budget-related issue or something internal administrative that you need support on, I would recommend contacting Dallas. And if you've got a field question, then I would recommend going straight to Jamie, but if you want to funnel it through Dallas, I think he'd be happy to be a conduit, and he'll get it over to Jamie for you. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney?
None. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
I've been sitting here, trying to say the right thing. Obviously, I don't want to offend anyone, and got a little tense tonight, but that's not the first time that has ever happened. But, I want to thank put a budget together. For the mayor of the city commission, I want to say how much I appreciate, publicly saying that I'm not going to name names. Those that individually call.
Not at all. We appreciate that. It's always hard to talk about some of these things, but we appreciate those thoughts. So thank you, madam. That takes us to the commission. Commissioner Coleman?
Can you remind me, because the budget has always passed, if it happens to not pass on
Apocalypse.
what are we looking at?
Roll back to
We
last
gotta,
year.
we have to handle it that night?
You go back to if you don't pass the budget, it goes back to your last year's budget.
We'll pass it.
So now that you've tentatively passed the budget, if you don't pass a final, your tentative will be what we operate underneath. But you do have to pass a final, or the state will start withholding revenues from you. And the state gets mad at you and makes you go to Tallahassee and explain to them why you didn't pass the budget.
Okay. That's all I got.
Just dramatic comment there. And
Yeah,
leave us
well,
hanging. Okay.
I think the citizens need to know and understand what we're up against here. September 25th.
Right.
So, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Mike, you going to Greece?
Correct.
They have cell phone service there. And,
Doesn't mean he'll have his
Just
phone.
remember, we'll be about 12 hours differential time, but you're
And it
free to
works-
call me during
And it
their
works
waking
both
hours.
ways, right?
because
And it works both ways.
my brother gone there, we had no problem communicating, so I just want to
I'm pretty sure the area
put you
will be in a
aware,
very
make you aware that there's no dead spots in Greece.
We don't want him to call us.
But anyhow, from the pictures I saw, it's an awesome place to go, and I hope you have a great time, man. And bring us all gifts back. I mean, it's only the right thing to do.
That honey in Delphi is really good, you know, if you need a suggestion. Commissioner Martin?
At risk of revealing myself, you don't have any slander on the Gator football team or anything? Did you completely forget about that?
I did lose some sleep over that. I mean, after that, I mean, devastating,
From
devastating loss.
from laughing too hard?
Devastating loss. I mean, my friends, I just felt so sorry for my friends, the people I care about. And fortunately, when the FSU destroyed that team they played, my spirits were lifted, and I was able to continue on with my life.
At least you're not a Clemson fan.
Not yet.
My comments are strictly from a business standpoint tonight. It's absolutely zero reflection on my personal feelings about each and every one. I value each and every one that works here very highly, and you all do an outstanding job. You're very appreciated, and I just wanted to be where it is and approach it that way. We are all adults, and it is very refreshing when we can have disagreements and still be able to get along cordially. I think it sets the right tone for what we need to have in our community as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mazon?
Yeah. Mike, appreciate you. Dallas, appreciate you. Travis, appreciate you. Jamie Jones, appreciate you. I appreciate our entire staff. They do a great job. I mean, through the hurricane, I don't know if anybody mentioned this, but I witnessed, you were out there as well. I witnessed Jamie Jones with you out there with the tree that fell, got the power back up. The team responded well. The city wasn't down long. Our staff did a phenomenal job. Thank you. Tonight was like, if not, I think it was my most intense meeting. It just seemed like it was a boxing match almost, you know? But like Tim Martin said, it seemed like it was an intense match. It really did. And so I just want to make it clear, Mike, you do a phenomenal job. You do. I mean, we hire a city manager to do a job, and you did it. And that's my response. Now, with that being said, I'll lift everybody's spirits with a nice joke. What do you call a bagel that tries to fly? Plain bagel. Plain bagel. Plain bagel.
Okay. I want to say I appreciate Miss Judy making those comments, and with the software training, I know that one of the potential holdups has been that software training is going to branch out into every department. So I want to make sure that we have a plan when we give the software, that we also have a plan to train everybody and make sure that it's implemented across the board. And we kind of prioritize that because we don't want software that just sits for a year. We have a homecoming parade on September 22nd, right? Have the same route as it's always had. We're going to come out right here at City Hall. We'll turn eastbound, and then we'll turn southbound right before the railroad tracks. We'll go back to the school. That should happen right around 3 o'clock. It depends on when the buses are cleared, right? And the buses in Alachua County have been a question mark lately, but it'll be close to 3 o'clock. A great place to sit is right here on City Hall lawn. Another good place is in front of the elementary school, and then in front of the tennis courts at the high school is always good. And then, of course, come to the homecoming game. There'll be a football game, and we'll be crowning a queen. That's always fun. And you know, at the P&Z, there was a lot of gratitude to the staff for the hurricane response. I absolutely applaud that as well, but I also want to say at this meeting that I applaud our residents. I don't know how many people reached out to me and said, hey, put me in, coach, right? I got a chainsaw, I'm ready to go, I can help clean the road. Luckily, at this point, our staff has reached the level that we've got it down. We were able to get everything, roads opened up. We never had to deploy our citizens as we used to do 9 years ago, when we would go out and literally count how many trees each of us were clearing in the road, you know. And that was wonderful because it allowed me to help 3 neighbors that were right around me that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to help because I would have been out helping somewhere else. So our team is great, our residents are great, right? And it really was a communal effort. And I echo all the comments about how wonderful it is to be able to have tense conversations, but to do it in a diplomatic way. And I think we will take the things we did well in this conversation and the things that we didn't do so well in this conversation into the future, and we'll be communally better as a team. So that does it for my comments. Any citizen comments? You waited through the whole night.
I always do.
I know, but I was talking actually to Kamal, and maybe his wife might want to just make a comment. You know, no, you don't have to. Dallas.
I'm up here on Jamie's behalf. We are continuing to pick up debris throughout the community from the storm. So our crews, as well as Waste Pro, will be picking up tomorrow. If we don't finish picking up tomorrow, we'll pick it up Friday. If we don't finish Friday, we'll pick it up Saturday. So if you have debris, please have patience with us. We are clearing debris out of 60 square miles of city, but our guys are out there every day, as well as Waste Pro picking up debris.
And
We'll get it out
we've
on social
waived
media.
the regular cutting at this point because we have a claw truck or something we're picking it up with, or we just hefting it.
We waived it. We're gonna pick it up until it's gone, and then starting next week, you'll have the normal yard waste. We're
Okay.
also not really advertising too much, but we are waiving penalties in the utility bills for customers who have had any issues with the storm.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Trying to remember what you told me.